Hi, this is Christian from WatchGuide.co UK, and we're going to put together an ETA2924-2 clone. This is a Sea-Gull ST2130, pretty much identical to the ETA movement. And we're going to put that together and see how that goes. I have put all the parts through the cleaning machine, and then here I have epilam treated the cap jewels and the escape wheel and the pallet fork. And I have already put together the auto winder mechanism in preparation, but we still have a fair amount of parts left, so and interesting parts as well. And we're going to get stuck in straight away, and we're going to start with the balance jewels. They're pretty fiddly to put together because they got to be oiled as well, and they have a shock spring that sits on top. So in my parts container with the cleaned parts, I now find the balance jewel. Here it is. I've got the balance jewel, and let's see, it's on top of my, there we go, there it is, and you can see it. Okay, and we're going to slide that into position. There we go, there it is, in position. But that's only half of it. Of course, the balance jewel has a cap jewel on top, and that is the tricky part. Because we have to oil the cap jewel before we put it in. Right, I've got my oil here, and I'm using a Möbius 9010, and I'm going to put a tiny little drop at the very center of the cap jewel. I've got to make sure, of course, that the cap jewel is the right side up, because it has a round side and a flat side. So I'm going to turn this around. There you go. The flat side is now pointing upwards, and I can put a tiny little dot of oil right in the middle of the cap jewel. There it is, done. That is Möbius 9010. That's the right stuff. And now we have to get that cap jewel right smack bang in the middle of the balance jewel. I normally do this under the microscope, and I'm going to attempt this without a microscope now. And done. Phew. There it is. And last but not least, we need the shock spring. Again, I would normally do this under a microscope. Good. I've only lowered the shock spring onto the balance jewels, and now we will try to get the shock spring into position. Again, something I would definitely do under the microscope. There we go. That was fiddly, as I said, not without a microscope normally. And the cap jewel is in place. We can now remove the balance, which we've put in here just to keep it safe during the cleaning in the cleaning machine. Having put that back into position saves our hairspring. There we go. We're going to take that off now. Next step is putting the barrel together. This is the barrel, and the mainspring will go into the barrel. What we got to do now, this is an automatic movement, so we have to put some braking grease onto the barrel wall. So I take a tiny amount of braking grease. This provides a controlled slip of the mainspring in the barrel. That's the braking grease in place. I have wound my mainspring already. Here it is. Normally you would put a new mainspring in, but this movement is brand new, so we don't have to do that. Okay, and that's the mainspring in place. Now, before we put the barrel on, we need some mains with the barrel lid on. We need some mainspring grease, and I'm going to put 4 dots onto the mainspring. And during reassembly we can't touch anything, and that goes for the barrel as well. So I'm going to put that onto some watch paper. Find my barrel arbor. Put the barrel arbor in. And put the barrel arbor in place. There we go. Now I've got a lovely contraption here that allows us to close the barrel evenly, and that is important, that we don't bend or deform the barrel lid. So there we go. Barrel in place, and you heard that. Barrel nicely snapped shut. Good stuff. Onwards and upwards. We don't need that tool anymore. And we can go back to the movement. Okay. Now we can start assembling the movement. We put in the center or second wheel in that case, as it doesn't sit in the center of the movement. And now the barrel can go into place. And I'm going to oil the barrel arbor with D5. There we go. And top of the barrel arbor as well. There we go. Tiny little drop of D5. And now I mustn't forget the stop lever, which provides the hacking second feature before I put the barrel bridge in. And that will get also a tiny amount of D5. That will do nicely. Okay, bridge goes in. There we go. It's nicely in place, and now we can put the 3 screws in that hold the bridge. 1 screw at a time, and we're not going to screw this down yet. We want all the screws in place, make sure everything is still moving properly, and then we can screw them down properly. At the moment we just put them in loosely. There we go. 3rd screw of the barrel bridge. Okay, now we test. Yep, everything moving very nicely. And now we can screw the bridge down. And everything's still moving nicely. And now a tiny drop of D5 to lubricate the barrel arbor in the bridge. Good. Next step is the wheel train. I start off with the escape wheel. And the 3rd wheel. Yep, there we go. And the 4th wheel, which also is, of course, holds the arbor that drives the central second. There we go. Lovely. As you see, I'm not touching anything, because you will instantly get skin flakes, sweat, all sorts of undesirable stuff you do not want in your movement. wheel bridge in place. And now we got to check that, yep, everything's moving. So now we're going to put in the screws for the wheel bridge. Same principle applies. We will only loosely screw down the wheel bridge, test that everything moves freely, and then properly tighten the screws. Okay, let's see. Very nice. We can screw down the wheel bridge. And now, lubrication time. There we go. Wheel bridge in place. Lovely. Möbius 9010. Tiny, tiny, tiny amounts. We're oiling now the escape wheel pivot. Fourth wheel pivot. And the third wheel pivot. And the center wheel pivot, or second wheel pivot. There we go. Now the sides of the movement we are allowed to touch. That is the only exception. And now from the bottom, escape wheel pivot and center wheel or second wheel pivot and third wheel pivot. We will not lubricate the central second arbor because that will lead to a stuttering movement of the second. We don't want that. Okay, oiled and put together so far. Now we can put in the crown wheel and the click wheel. We start off with the click spring. And these tiny little wire springs can fly very, very far. I'm going to prevent that. So I'm taking a bit of pegwood to hold down the wire spring in place whilst I put it in. So it can't, it has nowhere to fly to. There you go. That's it. We're looking for a little click. Come on. That's what happens when you video this. There it is. Good. And it's in position. Okay. Now we're going to use some special grease for this. This is Möbius 9501. There we go. My spring has moved a bit, so be careful not to lose that. I'm of course a bit more nervous with the camera running, understandably. And next step, a bit of blue grease for the crown wheel itself. Möbius 9501 again. And we're going to slide that crown wheel into place carefully. There we go. Perfect. Now the click wheel, which on this movement doesn't have a click on it, so it just sits on the barrel arbor really. It doesn't work as a click wheel. There we go. Click wheel screw. I will only put this in loosely. I notice that my little click here is out of position. Yep, it's moved on the wrong side of the spring. Now we're back in business. The crown wheel screw has a left-hand thread, not to forget. Okay, tighten that, and now to tighten this click wheel screw, I take a bit of watch paper to hold down the click wheel, and I can tighten it. And now we can test. Everything has to run very smoothly. I turn, you can hear that. Very nicely oiled, smooth, lovely. Right, with the click wheel and the crown wheel now in place, we can proceed to oil the escapement, the escape wheel. You can see we now have tension on the mainspring, so the pallet fork goes back and forth if we unlock it. Now we need a tiny oiler. I've specially bent this little oiler for the purpose. I'm going to clean it, and I'm going to use Möbius 9415 here. Put a tiny drop on that and go into the movement and put the smallest amount I can manage onto the side of the pallet jewel. Again, this is something I normally do under the microscope. Okay, we've got that, and now I let about 5 teeth pass. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I apply another tiny little droplet. There we go. And another 5 teeth. And another droplet. And another 5 teeth. And we do that till we've gone around once. Again, this is not going to look too pretty as I haven't done it under the microscope. There we go. Oiled. And now we can pop in the balance. I'm a bit nervous with the camera running. On a good day, this pops in straight away and the balance starts ticking. Like this. And now we put in the balance corkscrew. And here we are. There we go. Now for the bottom jewel. I'll find our We shouldn't do this in front of a running camera. Oh dear. Right. There's our bottom jaw. And now we have to do the same maneuver that we did before with the cap jewel. Turn it the right way up. Put a tiny drop of 9010 smack in the middle. I have epilam treated this before. Lower the cap jewel onto the balance jaw. We've done that. And now we have to put a shock spring into place. And the jewel is in place. And now we have a nicely ticking movement. Proof is, as usual, in the pudding. And we're going to put it on the time grapher. We have a barely wound mainspring, no bead error, perfect, that's very good. We will do of course a fine adjustment once the movement is completely put together. But this is lovely. I'm going to spare you the rest because that's boring, but we've got a base movement back together. Thank you.